Hi platform, I'm Nikita Gill, and today I'm going to be reading 2 poems from my new book, Great Goddesses. Lessons from Hephaestus. If hate is what made you, how does one replace it with love? You learn sweetness despite being built of jealous commands. You choose a different path than your blood demands. When no one aids you, you build your own 2 legs. You learn how to be needed instead of the easiness of wanted. And when the burning inside your chest claws insults you as forgotten, hideous, unloved every single night, you learn how to create iron, then a sword, and challenge those demons to a fight. 5th mortal interlude. To the poets. I know why you did it. Turned your own wounds into the stories of gods and heroes. It's easier to picture the pain that way. Turn it sweet, so strangers and even loved ones who hear you do not realize that when you say, "This is the way Zeus betrayed Hera," you are talking about how your first love betrayed you. And each of Heracles' 12 labors is penance you paid for hurting people. The truth is too painful to admit. It is digging bodies from a ground so unhallowed you hesitate to call it memory. It's better to touch it through a veneer of sacred stories. Name it Achilles. Call it Helen. Christen it Megara or Patroclus. As long as it makes you feel holy, less human, less sullied, at least it cannot harm you that way. So this collection, as the title says, is about great goddesses, and it's empowering stories about goddesses and monsters and mortal women, and just the idea of finding the divine inside yourself and the hero inside you. The first poem I read was Lessons from Hephaestus, and Hephaestus is one of my favorite of the 12 Olympian gods, because I think that his story was probably the harshest and had so much more suffering than any of the other gods. So the story goes that Hera gives birth to Hephaestus, and she looks at him, and because the gods can be quite shallow, doesn't think that he's beautiful enough. So she throws him off Olympus, and during that fall he injures himself and gets a disability. But Hephaestus is probably the kindest of all the Olympian gods, which is why I wrote this poem about Hephaestus, because the lesson that we learn from him is always find ways around your suffering, gain the best from them, and build a better you in every way. And that's what he does. He literally builds himself his own legs. How amazing is that? So the second poem I read was 5th Mortal Interlude to the Poets, and this is actually quite a personal piece. And I think it all of Greek mythology has been told by poets. So it's been told by Homer and Pindar and Hesiod, and it's basically storytellers passing it down to other storytellers in verse, right? And this, I think that all it was basically was taking the archetypes of the gods and trying to explain away all of our own pain and the pain that we go through. And because it's so hard to go back into our own memories and touch that pain, we create these metaphors and similes using the gods and the stories of heroes. And that's why I wrote that particular poem, to explain away why poets do what they do. The writing process for this book, it was really complicated because it came to me in waves. There would be days where there were total dry spells and I couldn't really write anything, and those were the days that I was doing a lot of reading. So I was reading Madeline Miller, and I read Stephen Fry, and I read Hesiod, and I read Homer, and I read a lot of Emily Wilson, and I read some really great books, the classics mixed with some modern retellings, and those stories basically then turned into dreams and into visions and into stories and into these questions which I had asked when I was very young, when my mum used to read Greek mythology out to me. And I never really, I never really went back to those questions. So a lot of this book is answering those questions to, like, say, an 8-year-old Nikita who was asking these questions and going, well, but why did Hera stay with Zeus when he was so mean to her? But why did, like, Hera throw Hephaestus? And what did it make him feel like? Or, you know, those questions and answering those questions. So the writing process was a lot of putting down those questions that I had when I was 8 and then finding ways to answer them. So I love this illustration because it's the idea of Eurynomy is the mother of all things, and she's dancing the world and the universe and the planets and everything alive simply because she's looking for places to dance. So this is her bringing to life all of creation. Poetry is all about channeling the most painful part of you and kind of trying to turn it into something beautiful, or taking moments that really affected you and turning them into something beautiful. And maybe you do it the way that I do, which is turn them into stories, and stories that we know quite well, and retelling those stories. Or maybe you do it in a very different way, which is a lot more personal to you. But the only piece of advice that I can give you is don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to put the words down. Don't be afraid to touch those parts of you and pull that verse out. You never know what you can do if you are just able to be brave with that. So Great Goddesses is out now. The link is in the description. Please remember to subscribe to Platformed for more brilliant bookish videos.